back to United in His Purpose, television ministry of Ken Bostrom Ministries. I'm so glad that you turned us back on, and we're, again today we're on Wandering Stars, but this time we're going to be on the asteroids. Hopefully we're going to get past the asteroids to get into the meteors today. So, thank you for being with us, and I so enjoy the comments that you're sending. I've had more comments on the Signs in the Heavens. People have said how much they've enjoyed it, how much they're learning, and thank you for commenting. It really encourages us that, because sometimes you wonder if anybody's out there watching, but thank you all for comments and the likes and the shares. And so today we're going to talk about asteroids. Asteroid, in the Bible, it's in Revelation 8:10 says, "And the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven." This is one of the great stars, asteroids, that can fall from heaven. It was burning like a torch. Now, when something starts coming into the gravitational pull, when asteroids are out there floating around in orbit in their cloud, in their belt, they don't have fire on them. But when they come close enough and they get into our gravitational belt, or gravitational pull, they start being pulled in by gravity. And it's much like if you watch Apollo 13, as soon as that cone started coming back into Earth, they were afraid they're going to burn up because the gravitational pull was pulling them so fast. So it will burn like a torch when it's coming. And it fell on a third of the rivers and a spring of water. A great means mega, and star this is aster, and it means a star. Jude 1:13 says there's wandering stars there, and that's where you get the word planet, is from the Greek word wandering, planetes. And so asteroid is it's like a small planet. There's some planets that are like the size of the asteroid. They're huge. Now, they travel around in a belt. They travel in a circular belt in between Jupiter and Mars. And so they're just out there floating around all the time. And here, asteroids are rocky worlds revolving around the sun that are too small to be called planets. They are known as planetoids or minor planets. There are millions of asteroids ranging from the size of hundreds of miles to several feet across. See, some of those are huge. When you're thinking hundreds of miles, more than 100 miles long, that's a long ways. Think how far. It takes you almost 2 hours to get 100 miles. And it's like a floating mountain of rock out there. And they've been there for millions of years. So don't be scared about it. God's been protecting you. Now, there's something called NEA, or a near-Earth asteroid. There's something called a NEO, which is a near-Earth object. And so the astronomers are always in their satellites. They're always out there looking for all these NEAs so that they can see if they're coming. Sometimes they come and they have no idea they were there. Sometimes they're hidden and they didn't know. Now, a recent NEAs, to date, astronomers have counted more than 8,000 NEAs at least 460 miles wide. That's in face.com. Large enough to wipe out an entire state. I don't know about Texas, but we're not going to have that here anyway. Currently, 887 mountain-size NEOs are recorded. NEA is anything within 300 or 30 miles of the Earth. So any NEAs is 30 million miles of the Earth. Now, April 15th of just this year, there was a 150-foot asteroid that was within 119,500 miles of the Earth. That's twice as close as the moon. That was very close. And I want to show you the effects of one of the asteroids that's in Arizona. This is an aerial view of Meteor crater near Winslow, Arizona. They're not sure if it was a small asteroid or if it was a meteor. But it's a 3/4 miles in diameter and a tenth of a mile deep. The crater is a result of an impact of a 40 to 50 meter iron nickel asteroid roughly 50,000 years ago. The rim of the meteor crater rises some 45 meters above the surrounding plain. However, the crater first formed, erosional process have reduced the height of the rim. And it goes further on. You can look up on the interview. But that's in Arizona. Now, look at here. This is an amazing one that they really, this crater here is 65 billion years old. And they really only discovered it, it's in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's in 1978. So here, this is the tip down, where we like to go to Cancun and Cozumel and different places. The cruise ship takes you down there. You don't know that you're going over a crater. It absolutely, you're going over a crater. And don't think I'm going to tell you what the crater's name is. You can look it up because I have no idea what that means. But it's in the Gulf of Mexico, and they really started searching on it when they were drilling, and they found it in 1978. So this is really a new find. And I want to read to you the effects of an asteroid shaking this earth. The effect of a large asteroid shaking Earth could fulfill many of the biblical judgments found in Revelation. If a sizable asteroid, the size of a football stadium, struck the edge of Mexico, the following 7 things would occur. A tsunami within 25 high waves would begin moving at 500 miles per hour towards the United States. It would wipe out everything in the U.S. coast and then go inland for about 50 miles. All ships, cruise ships, fishing and military in a tsunami's path would be destroyed. The land temperature near the impact would rise from normal to as high as 700 degrees. The only survivors would be mountains underground, until the affected area cools off. Particles would cover the earth and darken the sun for weeks and months. The food supply would be gone. Pestilence and drought would kill millions. Now, this one that hit, this asteroid was 6.2 to 9.3 miles in diameter, so it's not even the largest one. A crater is 93 miles in diameter and 12 miles deep. Now that's huge. They call this the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. And that was 65 million years ago. And so there was in 2 Peter it talks about the world that was, the world that is now, and the world that is to come. So when it talks about the world that was, there was a world before and guess where I found it again? I found it in this Bible code again. I found it in the Bible code by Michael Drosnin. I don't always use that. I look it up every once in a while. I pick it up. Actually, I had to go to the top of my bookshelf to find it. In here, he talks about dinosaur, asteroid, dragon, and it will strike. And so this was in the Bible code. The next one I want to point out was a Siberian asteroid, and this was June 30th of 1998. I'm going to read to you a little bit about them. At 7:17 on June 30th, 1908, a towering column of light, bright as the sun, bluey gold in color, hovering in the sky above the dense forests of Siberia. Moments later came a blinding flash, a wall of blistering heat, a pillar of fire, and staggering explosion which flattened trees and bushes. You can see here how the trees are flattened here. And burned everything in its path. The sky split in two, and fire appeared as high and wide above the forest, a member of the tribe remembered. The split in the sky grew larger, and the entire northern side was covered with fire. At the moment here's one person said, at that moment I became so hot I couldn't bear it, as if my shirts were on fire. I wanted to tear off my shirt and throw it down, and then the sky slammed shut. A strong thud sounded, and I was thrown a few yards. And he was several miles away from that. He wasn't even close to and he said, the tribesmen were one of the lucky ones. The blast was 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so it traveled about 9 to 19 miles per second, which would be 68,400 miles per hour. It slammed into the earth at that. Now, on the end time events, there's going to be a lot of end time events that have to do with asteroids, and you probably have seen them in the Bible and not understood what it's talking about. Well, it's talking about asteroids and meteors. And Revelation 8:7 says, the first angel blew his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were thrown down to the earth. 1/3 of the earth was set on fire, and 1/3 of the trees were burned, and all the green grass was burned. Now, we just looked at what would happen in Siberia. It's exactly what it was explaining. Here's another verse about the end times. It said, then a sound of angel and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood. 1/3 of the sea became blood. Pat Robertson wrote a great novel years and years and years ago. I don't even know if you can even get it anymore. It's called The End of the Age. It's a novel by Pat Robertson. And here's what a comment on this. The most successful and famous televangelist gives fictional experience to the apocalyptic prophecy. In AD 2000, and that's behind us, and we're still here, a flaming asteroid strikes Earth between Hawaii and California. The subsequent tsunami, earthquakes, and volcanism wipe out virtually all life around the northern Pacific Ring. And I'm going to read to you from, it's just a little leaflet I got. It's called Asteroid Impact, and it's by Wake Up America Seminars. And it talks about the impact forces. Simple law of physics. When one object collides with another object, energy was released. The amount of energy released in a collision directly relates to the size, speed, and intensity and direction of objects. As an asteroid comes closer to the Earth, the atmosphere begins more dense, and pressure against the asteroid increases significantly. So it really picks up speed and pressure as it comes closer to the Earth. And so is this something, that the astronomers absolutely weren't even looking for it. In here, too, it talks about that it really wasn't until Comet Shoemaker-Levy that the astronomers really started being worried that these things could hit the Earth. So it was with that in 1994, in our lifetime. I don't know about your lifetime. Maybe you were just born. Maybe you're a millennial. But look at here. Here is an asteroid last year that was the size of the Empire State Building. This was a NEA. This is a flyby on March 7, 2018. It was 1,250 feet in height. An asteroid the size of an Empire State Building has a chance of colliding in Earth again in 2135. And so that they're watching that. So that's the asteroids. They're like floating mountains in the sky, but most of them are just picked up in a belt. But when the end times happen, that is going to be one of the huge signs, like a mountain being thrown into the water. Now here we have meteorites. This is another one we want to talk about. This is the last one of the wandering stars. Now the difference between there's a meteoroid is a rock in space or a debris from an asteroid or a comet that's orbiting the sun. A meteor is what the rock becomes when it hits the atmosphere, a shooting star. A meteorite is what remains of it should it survive and hit the earth. So what we have when it hits the earth is a meteorite. When we see them in the atmosphere, it's called a shooting star. A meteorite is like a flash of light when we see in the night sky when a small chunk of interplanetary debris burns up and passes through the atmosphere. It's often called a shooting star or a falling star and refers to the flash of light. Shooting stars will travel about in intense meteor showers will be about 1,000 per night. That's an intense one. They're generally named after the constellation that they're named after. I do want to tell you about a meteor shower that made history, and you can look this up online too. It's the falling stars of November 13th, 1833. Was a meteor shower so thick, so extensive, so long-lasting that thousands feared the planet was doomed. The whole firmament all over the United States then being for 8 hours in the middle of the night, a fiery commotion. Can you imagine? It was amazing. Now, Dr. Almsfeld of Yale College, Massachusetts, was known as America's greatest meteorologist. First, it was he said it resembled a shower of fiery snow driven with inconceivable velocity, transfixing a beholder in wandering awe. Second, those consisting of large fireballs. This kind of appeared like falling stars. And let's see, it said, on a typical night, there was no meteor showers, or average seer could see only 10 falling stars per hour. But that night, an observer could have seen 60,000 per hour. Now that's amazing. That totally made history. That's the falling stars of November 13th, 1833. And that was seen in America and the United States and Canada. Now, 4 years prior to, I got this from a prophetic teacher that I follow. 4 years prior to America's war on terrorism, approximately 4 years prior to the Catholic Church experienced the worst internal conflict in hundreds of years, a meteorite shower formed a sword over Italy. November 2001, another meteorite shower, the Leonid, remember the showers are named for the constellation it comes through, occurred. This time the cosmic dust appeared to be falling from the paw of Leo, the lion of the tribe of Judah. When we teach on constellations, I tell you, I think you're going to like Leo the best. You're going to just cheer when you see what he's doing up in the heavens. And here in Mark 13:25, it says, the stars of heaven will fall. Both the heavens will be, powers of heaven will be shaken. Both record stars from heaven. And Revelation 6:13, which is the sixth seal of Revelation 6. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth like a fig tree drops its late figs when it's shaken by a mighty wind. Luke 21:25, this is Jesus talking. And there will be signs. Remember that signs again. There'll be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and in the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the seas and the waves roaring, man's hearts failing there for fear of the expectation of the things which are coming on the earth, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Now, asteroids, they name them, and they see them coming. It's like a big mountain and, NEA. But meteors, they don't see them. Most of the time, they don't see them. The one that hit Chelyabinsk, Russia, on February 15, 2013. The Russian Space Agency didn't see it. NASA didn't see it. Nobody saw it coming, and it exploded over Russia. And I have some things I want to tell you about that. That was absolutely the most exciting thing. But that thing, that meteor was like a football field size. It came from a football size asteroid. You remember I was talking to you about what happened on February 11th, that Pat Robertson said that there was an asteroid that was going to hit that Friday. And it said that that the first pope in 600 years had resigned, and we were having people in our house coming over. Well, so that was the first day. And the second day, before anybody came, we had people that were making coffee. We had people that were setting up chairs and different things like that. I was running around the house trying to figure out where the smoke was coming from, because I was smelling smoke. It was real to me. Nobody else could smell it, but something was burning. I could smell it. And it was towards lunchtime, and a prophetic pastor called. She texted me, and she said, this is Pastor Judah Goodry. She's been on our show before. And she said, ask your speaker why I'm smelling smoke. She said, my husband has a better nose than I am, and he doesn't smell anything, and I'm looking around the house for finding smoke. And our teacher that day, her name was Connie, and she said, that means you pray. You don't have to understand what you're doing, but God is giving you a sign that you need to pray. There's something that is coming. And that Friday, instead of the asteroid wiping out a satellite, this exploded above the earth. The interesting thing about Chelyabinsk, Russia, it's an area hosts nuclear and chemical weapon disposal facilities, weapon-grade plutonium, and 6,000 tons of nerve weapons is that Russia committed to destroy. They were all housed right there in Chelyabinsk. It shattered, had it exploded above the earth, it shattered. It did amazing. There was 1,000 people that were damaged. 258 children in one school were damaged by all the flying glass that was flying around the place. It left a 26-foot crater in the ice. That was just from exploding that much above the earth. Imagine if it had fallen into that city that held all that nuclear and chemical nerve weapons and everything were stored there. Can you imagine what would happen? And so that was in Russia. And that happened on the day that the asteroid was supposed to happen. Now, here's something interesting. This is from Neville Johnson of New Zealand. He writes an article called The Academy of Light. If I were you, I would sign up for the Academy of Light with Neville Johnson of New Zealand. He is amazing. It comes out, I think, quarterly. And he said, on the 1st February of this year, I woke of what seemed like an audible voice and said, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, said the Spirit, and they may rest from their labors and their works follow them. So he started asking the Lord, what do you mean by this? And the Lord said, the Lord spoke to me very clearly that T.L. Osborne is about to die. He died on February 14th, Valentine's Day, the day before this meteor. He said, T.L. Osborne is about to die, and when he does, is prophetically speaking a closing of the season, an era that will indicate the beginning of a new season of God's purposes. The Lord also said that Billy Graham will soon follow. The deaths of these two giants of the faith will indicate the end of a major season, which began to be known in 1948 move of God, establishing Israel as a nation. Well, he was telling his friend about that, what the Lord had showed him, and here's what, this is Pastor Joe Sweet answering him. At the bottom, he said, Lord, please, he said, the large asteroid or meteor that hit Russia also came on the same day that T.L. Osborne died, because it was the same day, different time zones. But it happened before Pastor Brooks had some kind of an encounter where he saw a meteor. He saw the meteor and was told it would mark the passing of a giant of faith. He actually saw 2 meteors, and the second one was supposed to be coming soon. Now, the one thing he talked about was it had something to do with Fidel Castro. Do you know on that same day that the meteor was exploded over Russia, there was one that exploded over Cuba too? Isn't that interesting? Now, here's another thing that's interesting. On February 11, 2013, remember the Pope Benedict resigned, the first one in 600 years to resign. And you know what happened? The lightning hit this building twice. This is a basilica, and it hit it twice. The person that took this picture said he missed the first strike, but he got the second strike. You know what it means when something, it's a sign of something happening. It's a sign of the end. It's a sign that God is getting ready to close the ages. And so, you want to stay tuned to us, especially when I get into the constellations next week. We're going to get into the constellations. Hopefully, I'm going to cover all 48 in 3 programs. So pray for me, because I kind of run out of time. I do have the Wandering Stars on a DVD. And if you're interested in getting that on the DVD, just email me and let me know, and I can get it to you. God bless you. Thank you for being with us again. Have a great day.